Hello, I am Avela Vendela and welcome to another video about the High Republic. This time I'm going to do a review of The Rising Storm, which is the second adult novel of this era. If you are interested in this era, then go and watch my spoiler-free review of the first 3 books of this era. You can find it in the card up here or in the description. There will be spoilers in this video, so if you have not read the book, then don't watch this video. And now let's get into The Rising Storm. Okay, first of all, I have to show you the version that I got. This is the cover. I got this special edition. It's from out of print. And it's also a signed edition, so I have Cavan Scott's signature in it. So yeah, when we have that out of the way, let's get into the actual content of the book. And I had no idea what to expect when going into this book. When I read the foreword, I felt like the idea felt very underwhelming again. I wasn't sure how it would be an interesting story. I was wrong, obviously, and the fair sounds awesome and I would love to go to something like that, obviously if it didn't turn into a massacre. I was also kind of surprised to learn that this book was set 1 year after events in Light of the Jedi. For some reason I assumed it would pick up a bit earlier. I was also kind of surprised that the Drengir have become a somewhat important part of this era. After reading Into the Dark, I kind of assumed that the Drengir was just like a one-off thing and that would be it. And to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the Drengir. I feel like they go kind of into monster territory. If you've seen the Clone Wars full rewatch videos, then you know that I'm not a huge fan of monster films and monster stuff. Yeah, the Drengir could just go somewhere. We don't need them. And as with all books, especially this one when there are so many different characters and places and events, some things are more interesting than others. I felt most of these characters and events were very interesting. My least favorite was the thsi Yorick stuff. I just didn't really care for the character, and yeah, it's not anything deeper than that. I just didn't really find her to be too interesting. She might become more important in the future, I don't know. But in this book she didn't impress me too much. I feel like the structure was very similar to Light of the Jedi, or pretty much the exact same almost. This one didn't have the parts, but the chapters were built quite similarly. As I said in my era review video about Light of the Jedi, the structure of that book made it very difficult to stop reading, and the same goes for The Rising Storm. You're always like, just one more chapter, I need to know what happens, and all these cliffhangers at the end of the chapters, and then you have to read a couple chapters before you know what actually happened. It's really well done. It doesn't feel weird that we're jumping from here to there and back a bit and then here and then there again. It's not hard to follow. I think it's really well done, and it really keeps the momentum of the book and allows us to see the most important parts, and also allows us to get to know a lot of different characters, which is great. First of all, it was great to get more of Elsarman and Stellan Dios. We didn't really see much of them before, and they have been somewhat prominent in advertising and in pictures and stuff, and I really struggled to tell them apart before reading this book. I was like, they're kind of the same, 2 guys the same age with lightsabers. But yeah, they are very different, and really loved getting to know them in this book. But then Bel Satifar is probably my favorite character to come out this era. He is really the only character that I've really come to like so far. Bel was written really well in this book, and I loved to see his connection with Ember. And something we also get through Bel is an insight into the Jedi's grieving process, which we haven't really seen, I feel like, in this much detail before. In this era so far, we have gotten a lot of talk about grieving and the grieving process of Jedi, and there's a lot of talk about how the Jedi lost their masters. And then something we have to mention is that on page 87, Terra Sinubi is mentioned. I don't know if you can call it an Easter egg, but I love things like this, especially here when we see some of these old masters, Yaral Proof and Yoda being mentioned, and now Sinubi in his young years. Honestly, it would be cool to see more of him in the future. It was just kind of a cameo at this point. I guess characters like Sinubi, who we know for sure will survive, for the reader and for the author, it's more interesting to use characters that are new and whose fate we have yet to find out. I feel like we got to know the Nihil really well in this book. That was really good, even more than in The Light of the Jedi, which already had a lot of that. In my previous era review, I said that the Nihil could be more interesting if there was some more moral ambiguity and it wasn't so black and white. And well, it's still very black and white. The Nihil are evil and that's that. But I do feel like they have leveled up for me as villains. And seeing that inner conflict of the Nihil was great, you know, conflict between the Tempest runners and the conflict between the Tempest and the Eye. And I was actually kind of finding myself rooting for Marchion. When the other Tempests were conspiring against Marchion, I was kind of like, no, you cannot do anything to Marchion. We have not yet seen what this man is capable of, and I want to see what he's capable of. And there's still a lot left to discover about him. And I feel like he is a very interesting villain, and I'm not entirely sure what his end goal is. And then of course, what do we think about the Leveler? Like, what the crick is that even? What I gathered is that it's some sort of artifact slash creature that heavily affects Force users and apparently can turn them into stone, or stone that can dissolve into air. And just like Stellan at the very end of the book, I'm also a bit afraid of the Leveler and what it can do. I was a bit worried about the machine that the inventor was trying to sell that could disable lightsabers. But when we saw the true powers of the Leveler, then I completely forgot about the other machine. And then of course we have Mari Santekka. She was talking with Loden and stuff. It's a mystery still, and I trust that we will get to know more about this mystery and it will all be revealed when it's time. Honestly, I have no idea what's going to happen next. It left us on a bit of a cliffhanger. We have some of the Jedi down at Grisol, and Loden is dead for real now, I guess. There was a theory that Loden, Great Storm, was going to become a Sith and then become Plagueis Master, and I honestly really liked that theory and it would have been quite interesting, but I guess Loden is dead now, turned into a stone, and he disappeared is what I think happened. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's what happened, and I guess that means he's now actually dead. Question mark? Other than the fact that the Nihil are going to strike back and probably attack the Starlight Beacon, I don't know what's going to happen. But I feel like there's going to be some tragedy left to read through. I mean, this whole book was quite tragic. Yeah, it was a bit sad. It was a lot sad. Many sad. Almost got too sad and too tragic, and I like happy endings, so I'm not sure if I should be excited or worried about the future of this era. I am a lot more invested in the story and in the characters now. I'm excited to read the junior and young adult novel of this second wave, and I'm starting to warm up to this era. I may be making a review of the next adult novel, but it's coming out next January, so it's too early to tell if I'll even be making videos at that point, so we will see. Other than that, I hope you had a good time listening to this. Yeah. Okay. Goodbye.